Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Sueur City Council meeting dated December 23, 2024. At this time, we will call the meeting in order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Council members, you all received your packets over the weekend. Hopefully you have time to study that, look it over, reach out to Mr. Wilbur with any questions. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Second. Second, Councilmember Huntington. Any other discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to presentations, Mr. Roby, I'll let you kick this off for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to invite Police Chief Pilar Sueur forward as she administers the oath of office to the Sueur Police Department's full-time officer, Colton Young.
Thank you. I like it that we've been here before and that we've done this before 3 times prior this year. A swearing-in ceremony is a formal event where individuals stepping into new official roles make a promise to be loyal, honest, and dedicated to their duties. For police officers, the ceremony involves taking an oath of office, pledging to uphold the law, protect the community, and serve with integrity. Colton is our 4th swearing in the city this year, completing the officer level team, and we couldn't be happier. The Sueur Police Department has always prided itself on its strong community engagement and trust. Our commitment extends beyond mere law enforcement. It's about fostering relationships, understanding the needs of our residents, and working to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone in our city. Colton, as you come this journey with us, know that you're becoming part of a team. We're a family devoted to upholding the values of service and protection. Welcome to Sueur. Welcome to our city where community matters. Welcome to our team where each member plays a crucial role in safeguarding our community's trust and safety. Congratulations, and may your career be fulfilled with purpose, fulfillment, and the knowledge that you make a profound difference in the lives of those you serve. I'll have you stand up. Are you able to read that? Okay, do you want to back up so they can take good pictures of you? Go ahead and raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Colton Young,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of a police officer
the duties of police officer
within and for the city
within and for the city
of Sueur and State of Minnesota.
of Sueur and State of Minnesota.
Congratulations. I know. We practice, see if he was gonna get cold. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Riani. We're going to, as a tradition, the city council works its way through and like a grade.
Understood. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Do you want to sign this for him?
Yes.
It's ready to go. And after he goes, unless you want to stay here for the remaining of the meeting, I would suggest that we go into pictures. It's the best pen I could have. If you want to stay, I'll be great.
Thank you, Chief Steer. We appreciate
Thank
you
you.
administering the oath. And Officer Yanni, good luck to you. Thank you. Moving on to our next item of business is the public hearing. Mr. Roby, you want to explain what this is about?
I would, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we're going to propose the City Council conduct a public hearing related to the abatement of nuisance at 312 Market Street. The Sueur Police Department has communicated several times with the property owner at 312 Market Street regarding nuisance parking and several storage violations which remain unaddressed on the property. The police have had several contacts with the property owner, most recently earlier today, and the violations remain unaddressed. Per city code, prior to any order of abatement, City Council must provide the property owner an opportunity to appeal the stated violations, and public hearing proposed for tonight was duly noticed and served to the property owner. Unless there are any other questions, staff would recommend a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Open hearing's open. Nobody's here to address that, I don't think. Nobody's signed it. Before we close the public hearing, I'd like to address the public. This matter, I just want this to be kind of a wake-up call to some of the homeowners in our community. 95% of our community homeowners take very good care of their place, but there's a few of you out there that kind of let things go, and we're going to address it. So we need to keep a watchful eye on our property and be respectful. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Councilmember Huntington, second by Councilmember Sullivan. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to tonight's consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the City Council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. Mr. Roby, you want to review these with us?
I would, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First on tonight's consent agenda is approval of the City Council minutes from the December 9th, 2024 regular meeting. Second is approval of disbursements through today. Included in those items, over $25,000 are payment to Altitude Energy for the third pay app for the Main Street Substation project, totaling $148,139.29. Second, again, to Altitude Energy, pay app number 4 for the Main Street Substation project, $176,123.98. Third, to Electric Pump. These are for replacement pumps at the Mayo Park Lift Station, $90,985.50. Next, to Bolton and Meg, engineering work for the 2025 Street Utility Improvements Project, $55,490.82. Next to the Minnesota Department of Revenue, the city's November 2024 sales tax bill, $38,201. Next to Pipe Services Corp. For the video inspection, 2024 video inspection of our sanitary sewer system, $33,692.01. And finally, to DGR Consulting Engineers, engineering on the electric North 4th Street Distribution Improvements Project, $28,066.50. Next is approval of the 2025 tobacco license renewals, followed by the approval of the 2025 public meeting calendar. Just as a reminder, we typically do this at the organizational meeting for City Council, but just to make sure that we get the calendar out there in front of everyone and formally notice the organizational meeting, it would be recommended that we provide this for City Council consideration tonight. Item E, approval of the Main Street Substation Payment Application Number 3 referenced earlier. Item F, approval of the Main Street Substation Payment Application Number 4, also referenced earlier. Item G, approval of no waiver of the city tort liability limits through the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, consistent with past practice. And item H, approval of Resolution R 2024-067, approval of a Bulldog Youth Hockey Association gambling permit.
Thank you, Mr. Roby. Anybody have any questions regarding any of these items on the consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Councilmember Williams, thank you. Seconded, Councilmember Tui. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Nothing. We have nothing with public comment tonight, so we'll skip by that. We'll move into the city administrator's update. Mr. Roby, this is your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sueur County Vision 2020, Vision 2050. I know I sent an email to all council members, all of our boards and commission members, and a number of city partners around a survey that Sueur County and its consultants have put out regarding the Vision 2050 project, which is a comprehensive land use revision that the county is looking at. I would just remind all members of the public to please complete the survey. It only takes 5 minutes, 10, 15 if you have a lot of comments. We conducted new council member orientation last week with our 2 council members elect, Wendy and Kay. The day went by very, very quickly, lots of great questions, and we'll probably have another session in early January to include some site visits around town. Speaking of new members on boards and commissions and the like, we are getting some applications now for upcoming vacancies on our boards and commissions. And I would just encourage the public again, if you're interested in serving on the Airport Commission, Planning Commission, the EDA, or any of our other boards and commissions, the application is very, very simple. It's on the city website. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I would like to thank Councilmember Tui and Councilmember Swanberg for their dedicated service to our community during the course of their terms. City Hall will be closed for the holiday tomorrow and on Christmas Day. Relatively recent development, City Council will recall that at the December 9th meeting, City Engineer Beanfang was here to talk about a design deviation on North 4th Street involving a 25-mile-per-hour S-curve that for state standards we needed to maintain 30 miles per hour. We had somewhat of an interview with the MnDOT panel last week and learned on Friday that we had received approval for the design deviation, which is great news. I'd like to finally congratulate all of our city employees who celebrated service anniversaries during 2024. Dan Straub, who's also a lineman, but celebrates 20 years of service with the fire department this year. Jose Luna, celebrating 20 years with the Sueur Fire Department. Sally Harriman, 15 years in our finance and utility billing department. James Kraler, 15 years with the water and wastewater department. Sergeant Josh Gladys, 10 years with the PD. Shane Meyer, 5 years with Public Works and Facilities. And Allison Watkins for 5 years with Recreation. City Council's next meeting will be January 6th. That will be the annual organizational meeting. And then a reminder, there will still be 2 regular meetings in January, the 13th and the 27th.
Thank you, City Administrator Roby. Anybody have any questions regarding his update? Appreciate you sharing that with us. If not, we will move on to the regular agenda, which starts off with item 9A, which is the R 2024-066, 312 Market Street order of nuisance abatement. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As referenced during the public hearing, the council, which council conducted tonight, the action in front of City Council tonight following numerous notifications and contact with the property owner would be to consider abatement of the cited nuisances on the property. The resolution has been prepared for City Council tonight to consider. The resolution does state that the property owner if executed, the resolution states that the property owner has 2 weeks from the date of the order, which would be today, to demonstrate that they have abated the cited nuisances. And if they don't, and completely abate the nuisance or to a satisfactory degree as determined by the city, in 2 weeks that the city would pursue a warrant to access the property and abate the nuisance. Any costs associated with abating the nuisance that the city undertakes would be billed back to the property owner.
Simple as that. Anybody have any questions?
Joe, are these properties, do they come up by like, do we just enforce it or are they plan driven?
That's a great question, Councilmember Sullivan. The city, from a nuisance standpoint, these are enforced on a complaint basis. So we do encourage folks, once in a while we'll get a phone call or an email saying, hey, I saw this property that has a lot of miscellaneous debris on it. We do appreciate those phone calls, that communication, because then we can make contact with the property owner. Council will note that this specific process does not come up very often. And that's because generally when the police department make contact with the property owner over some potential nuisance violations, the nuisances are abated relatively quickly. But we do enforce on a complaint basis.
Anybody else? Now I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution R 2024-066.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg.
Second.
Councilmember Tui, thank you. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. The owner of 312 Market Street, get it cleaned up. Resolution 9B. We're moving on to 9B, that's resolution R 2024-068, which is accept final plans for the water and wastewater SCADA controls project. Mr. Rubin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to apologize in advance to Mike and or Foster, whoever comes up to the podium. My clicker is not working right now. So this is a project that City Council is, I believe, generally well versed in at this point. It's been the topic of several conversations previously at City Council meetings from a capital improvement standpoint. This project has been in the works, being considered and engineered for several years now, and we previously City Council did order the final plans. The city's water wastewater engineer, AE2S, has prepared those plans and specifications for the SCADA controls project and is prepared to present them tonight. With that, Mike Saunders with AE2S is here tonight. We'll just rotate the podium.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. Like what was said, my name is Mike Saunders with AE2S. I'm a senior project engineer. And we are here to present the final bid-ready plans and specs for the electrical controls improvements project. And just wanted to give kind of an overview of background of the project and just some reasons why we're moving ahead with doing some of these improvements, and as well as next steps. And then we could go over cost estimates too. So just to start off, like high level, I'll mention the word or the acronym SCADA a few times in this. And what that means is supervisory control and data acquisition. So there's a little figure there on the slides, but basically it's just showing a diagram of what SCADA is. So there's PLCs and all these control panels for sanitary or water and wastewater control panels around the city. There's 16 sites in the Sueur, from lift stations, wastewater control panel, water treatment plant control panel, funnel house, water tower, and these PLCs are connected to the SCADA server and allows city staff to monitor and remotely control some of the equipment remotely. So it's very common in a lot of municipalities, and it's very crucial to knowing if there's like failures or if there's certain things happening at the site where city staff has to get out to the site and fix a failure. So it's a very crucial part. So does alarm notification, data collection such as trending, alarm history, and reporting. And yeah, it's a very critical part of the overall control system of the city. And you can skip that. So just a really brief overview of the existing SCADA architecture in the sewer. So it's one single standalone workstation. And when I've been saying workstation, it's essentially like a computer. It serves as a master for the entire system. It utilizes antiquated legacy software, Viva InTouch SCADA. It contains controls and monitoring for all 16 water and wastewater sites, all in that one workstation. So some of the deficiencies, I'll go over that on SCADA. So it's an antiquated software. It was introduced in the 1990s. It's not very server friendly. It's no longer supported by the manufacturer with firmware updates or security updates. And it's more vulnerable to cyber security attacks for that same reason, which is kind of a more common issue you hear in the news with municipal systems. Another deficiency is just, like I said before, it's a single standalone workstation. So if that system fails, then the whole SCADA system fails and you're kind of blind to what's going on at all the control panels. There's no redundancy for that same reason. And very high risk of failure. Like I said, upon failure, the entire system, entire SCADA system will no longer be operational. So some of the improvements that are planned in this is incorporate a server-based SCADA system, which allows multiple different servers. So there's redundancy built in. So if one server fails, the other one can be used. Servers will be protected with the latest firmware devices because we're switching to the newer platform. So Viva will, manufacturer will update security, the version, and then features upgrades as well. And then, so yeah, like I said, fully supported by the manufacturer. So now switching over to a different portion of the controls. So I talked about PLCs, which are in each one of these panels at these remote sites, which take in a lot of the inputs, and it's the brains of the panel. So it operates the pumps, turns on equipment, and does that automatically. So it's a programmable logic controller, PLC. Just like the SCADA system, it's technologies from the 1990s. They've seen failures. They're no longer supported by the manufacturer as well. And then it forces the use of failing radio telemetry system for communications back to SCADA. So that's kind of an older technology, and the new PLCs would allow it to go away from that. So new PLCs, more powerful, they would be supported by the manufacturer. They have Ethernet ports to allow for fiber optic and then cellular telemetry communication back to SCADA, which is a lot more common these days. It's easily supported by the systems integrator because it has a non-proprietary software, so you can use multiple different integrators. You're not stuck with one. And now, so we talked about SCADA, and now PLCs, and these are the control panels themselves. So what house the PLCs and all these components like motor starters, switches, relays. So also they're older, they've been so they're aged and they're failing. A lot of the schematics of the drawings of the control panels are so panels are so old that all these updates have been done to the panels where they're really no longer accurate anymore. So any of the drawings that we had referenced for this project, it was very hard to discern like what was actually in the panel. You had to go out there and like see what's going on. So with these new control panels, you'll have new drawings, and they'll be accurate to what's installed. Other kind of a safety concern is there are panels out there that are mixed with low and high voltage, and recently it's been kind of a concerted effort to separate lower and high voltage. So if somebody opens a low voltage panel, they're not working where there's high voltage, so there could be safety concerns there. Low voltage likely won't hurt you very bad, but high voltage will. So the new control panels will be equipped with new reliable components. Will include new and accurate control panel wiring schematics, like I said. We separate those low and high voltage components so that's more increased safety. We'll have ease of maintenance, and then wiring schematics will all be consistent with one another when all these panels are replaced, so it'll be more standardized. So part of the project or our bid forms can be set up as a base bid for these components here. So new SCADA system, the telemetry master control panel will be at the water treatment plant to monitor all of the 16 remote sites. New control panels and instrumentation for all of those sites will be a part of the base bid, and then transition all remote site telemetry to fiber optic communications back to SCADA. So that's the base bid. Next slide. There's a couple of alternates that are going to be included in the project. A couple of reasons for this is it works as kind of a cost control measure. If prices come back a little bit higher, there's a little bit of control on the city side whether to take alternate 1 or 2, and if they're a bit higher, you can kind of bring down the cost. But also there's improvements that are potentially coming up with these 2 alternates, these 2 panels, where it might make sense to hold off depending on the price that comes in. So alternate 1 is would be the water treatment plant, new PLC, and then a number of components there. Switch. Alternate 2 is the PLCs within the wastewater treatment facility, and also other component upgrades as well. So it'll be base bid 1, alternate 1, or base bid, alternate 1, alternate 2 will be how the bid form is set up. Project costs, a little bit harder to see in that table, but those are all the costs broken down by the 16 different remote sites. So you can see the lift stations, LS 4, 6, and 9 are the sanitary lift stations. Water treatment plant panels, the wells, and SCADA. So that's everything. That the whole cost there is 2.9 million. If you break that down into the base bid, alternate 1, and then alternate 2, base bid's about 1.9 million. Alternate 1 is 330,000, and alternate 2 is 700,000. And these are our estimates. They're actual numbers. These are the engineer's estimate, which we would compare to when the bids open. Project schedule. So, assuming we move forward with this, we would submit plans to the MPCA for their review. We do that pretty immediately in January. They can tend to take some time reviewing these plans. So worst case scenario, it's about 90 days. So we would see being able to advertise, assuming those plans are approved in March, bid opening May 1st, 2025. And then there will be we do have a couple of years built into the project of substantial completion, and then another 6 months for final. Main reason for that is the lead times of these panels, and also the amount of time it's going to take integrating and programming these new wastewater control panels. So that's that. Yeah, and then I think right now it would be the motion to go on and move forward with this, the motion to adopt this resolution approving plans and specs for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
Does this package come with automatic software updates?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have to pay for it? I mean, is it like your iPhone where you?
I don't think you have to pay for it.
Okay.
It should be automatic.
And then what if there's a power outage? Well, does it have a backup?
Yeah, so a lot of control panels have UPS, like uninterruptible power supply, which will power the controls.
Mhm.
And there's also, we don't really talk about it here, but a lot of these sites have generators, or city staff might have a portable generator to bring out to get temporary power.
Okay, what's the real? Is it just?
Yeah, so the UPS is pretty, switches very quickly over to that power. If you have a on-site standby generator, that's there's a transfer switch, it'll automatically transfer power over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. The server, does that have a whole separate area? I remember a server room and that was, mess with the server room.
It's gonna be at the water treatment plant. I haven't seen that actually in person. That would be my colleague, but I mean, there's no new room that's gonna be created out of it, so the existing space.
So always neighbors have to be dedicated and clean and, don't mess with them. In layman's terms, can you describe the difference between alternate 1 and alternate 2?
Yeah, it's, alternate 1 was essentially the upgrades at the water treatment plant, the control upgrades. And then alternate 2 is at the wastewater treatment facility.
So would we be doing both of them?
So that would be 1 and 2. The base bid would deal with the satellite locations.
Yeah,
And
and
the panels at the lift stations. And then alternate 1 would be, depending on what the pricing is, we could update the panels at the water treatment plant. Alternate 2 would be the panels at the wastewater plant, at the plants themselves. The base bid, because some of the day-to-day problems that have been noted for several years are at the lift stations, at the wells, at the towers. And then if, depending on what pricing comes in, the water plant itself and the wastewater treatment plant itself could also be updated.
So are they included in the, what you said, 12 locations? Or
yeah, I
would you
think
add
it's
more locations?
16 locations, those are included.
16.
And when I say alternate, like the city can decide to choose both of them, none of them, or one of them. So depending on the
Okay,
prices.
so it's not an either or.
Yeah.
We're doing both.
We could, yes. And so once the bids go out, so this is approved tonight, MPCA will review the plans. If MPCA says, yeah, they're okay, we'll prepare the bid package post bid. When the bid comes back in, then we'll bring it back to city council to confirm acceptance of bids. And that
Okay.
acceptance of bid package will either be the base bid or alternate 1.
Okay.
So in order to get both of those, bid theoretically have to come in about $1 million less than what we has the whole project.
No, so 2.9 is the total.
Right.
And if you add base bid all 1, all 2 of our estimate, that's 2.9.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I just have one quick simple question. This is a pretty technical and complex system. Does come with some support through your company. Once we get it in, you're going to force to kind of walk us through. I mean, with our
Yeah.
staff and stuff.
Yep, and I think as a part of this project, we would be helping with the integration of the controls and all the programming. So there's gonna be a big chunk of this will be just setting up the new SCADA and then programming, integrating the PLCs into SCADA too. So yes, we will.
That support training.
Yeah, it would include training, yes, would include programming.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Otherwise,
One more, just wanted to make sure the system is going to be scalable, that if we have any future expansion in the city, we can always add on to it later.
Yeah, I mean, with the servers will be able to, I wouldn't say there's an unlimited, how much you can expand, but definitely be able to add additional PLCs and panels into the server and the SCADA. So that answers your question.
thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to the recommendation and the order. The motion we're looking for is to adopt resolution R 2024-068. Approving the final plans for the specifications of water, wastewater for the SCADA controls project. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Councilmember Williams seconded. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Moving on to item 9C, the payoff of the 2019 Connecticut lease. Mr. Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Graff is here. I trust council found the information they needed in the memo, but City has a 2019 Kinetic equipment lease with a number of pieces of equipment on it. Final payment date is January 1st, 2026 at this point. There are some bond instruments that we have, including this lease, where if you want to pay off early, you can, penalty free, but you can only do so on another payment date. Quick history, history note. This happened when we went to convey the hospital property to Ridgeview, where we thought the timing was all great and grand and wonderful, and then we had to bumping the payment back 2.5 months because the bond itself was only payable early on a payment date, so we could also took all the action we needed to, and then we couldn't actually transfer the money until August. But so this is the case here, where if we'd like to consider paying off the remainder of this debt early and save some interest, we can do so, but we would have to do so by January 1st, 2025. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Graff.
Yeah, thank you, Administrator Roby, members of council, mayor. Not too much to add to the summary that you provided there. But yeah, the whole basis for this is with our current street sweeper. And it's some inefficiencies that it's had in cleaning the streets. And our public works department has been looking into that, looking at other opportunities, and did find someone that is willing to take our Dulevo street sweeper straight up for an Elgin Pelican unit, which we feel and has with other cities works better in our climate here. The Dulevo works better in other environments. I think the company that's looking to take this from us has somebody out in Colorado where they feel it will work just fine out there, but here it just hasn't been doing what we had anticipated it to do. So in order to do that, we can't have that piece of equipment on lease. And so we're bringing forward here this request to pay off that lease early here. Like Administrator Roby said, we have to do that by the 1st of January. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do it. The next date would be the final payment date. And by doing so, the early termination saves about $9,500 in interest too. So that's beneficial here, and that's why we are bringing this forward at this council meeting. And we do have, we did already budget for this lease payment that is due on January 1st, 2026. We did budget for those dollars in the 2025 budget. We obviously wouldn't receive those until May and October and maybe November when tax payments come in. But we do have funds available to cover that in our in this fund for the kinetic lease and our capital budget to cover that payment until those tax settlements come in. So with that, that's operating.
Finance Director Graff. Anybody have any questions for Kim or our city administrator regarding this matter? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the early payoff of the 2019 kinetic lease and direct staff to pursue trading of the Dulevo, is that how you say it? Dulevo. Sounds very French. Street sweeper and as proposed.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. Councilmember Sullivan, second. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Yeah, Mr. Swanberg, you got something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that with a guarantee that they don't come and do the street sweeping on garbage collection days.
Okay. Make a note of that, Mr. Roby. Thank you. Moving on to item 9D, resolution R 2024-065, the 2025 raise planning grant application. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council will recall that in 2023 and 2024, City Council authorized submission of Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Ease, or RAISE, planning grants for the Highway 169 corridor. The US DOT has allocated funding for planning grants in 2025 Based upon the feedback the city has received from the US DOT each of the last 2 years, we do find it advisable to apply again in 2025. The program itself for the DOT focuses on surface transportation projects that have a significant local or regional impact. You don't need to look too far to find the anecdotal evidence for why the 169 corridor, which includes the county roads, County Road 28, Forest Prairie Road, County Road 22, Dobby Lane, and Highway 93, the impact that that corridor has, not only locally, but also regionally. And in fact, I think if there's one thing that changes a little bit the dynamic of our application in 2025, it's the regional impact and really statewide impact that the corridor had during the flooding event in June and July 2024, when Highway 169, as it was marginally accessible, was the main route from southern Minnesota to the metro. So the planning awards support projects that improve safety, economic strength, equity, accessibility, and climate and environmental sustainability. So from a flood standpoint, from an economic development standpoint, from a traffic and pedestrian safety standpoint, each year we felt very strongly that our project, proposed project, planning for a comprehensive vision of this corridor certainly meets the bill, and our scoring that we've received back from the DOT each year has demonstrated that as well. We just can't get the Secretary of the Department of Transportation to pick our project. The goal, again, in 2025 is this comprehensive vision, looking at needs and opportunities for the corridor, establish study goals and objectives, develop alternatives, achieve consent from surrounding jurisdictions, and develop an implementation plan to facilitate the vision. So as you can imagine, a lot of this is conversations with our partners and stakeholders, and we have a bunch of them listed here, but I would say in 2023 and then certainly in 2024, the support that we received from our partners in and around the community was, I thought, really staggering. Sueur County, of course, is a steadfast supporter of us. Not only MnDOT, who has recognized the challenges that this particular corridor present, local businesses have submitted letters of support for this application previously. Our friends in Tyrone Township submitted a letter of support for this, as this corridor materially impacts their transportation plans, EDA, the chamber. So a project like this would really look at engaging all of those stakeholders to develop a comprehensive plan. What do we see the Highway 169 corridor looking like in the next 20, 30, 40 years? What does that mean from a transportation standpoint? What are our goals from an economic development standpoint to support some of our industry out there on the hilltop? And given the impacts of the flooding from 2024, should City Council support this application in 2025, we are looking to extend the corridor itself. In the last 2 years, the corridor, as defined, ran from the north interchange, which is the intersection of Dobby Lane and County Road 22, or effectively Mayo Park, up to Henderson Station Road. Given the impacts from earlier this year, we would like to extend that corridor all the way to the south interchange, which is the 93-169 interchange, to include that highway mileage as well. The proposed planning grant that we would be seeking would be $500,000 in total project cost. We'd be looking for $400,000 from the US DOT, with up to $100,000 local match, or 20% of the total estimated project. The project itself would, if awarded, would take time to kick off, and we would expect the project itself to run between 2 and 3 years, just to make sure that it captures everything that we want it to. I imagine a level of involvement similar to what the city saw with the establishment of the 2040 comprehensive plan. Lots of conversations, lots of public meetings, lots of engineering work. And at the end of the day, what you'd like to have is a vision for that entire stretch, that 4 or 5 mile stretch, that then we can take back to the US DOT with the support of MnDOT, with the support of all of our stakeholders, and apply for a construction grant. And this program is handing out tens of millions of dollars in construction awards every year, many of which go to projects that initially were funded through a planning grant. Once that you can demonstrate you have a viable plan, you can submit for construction. So the request tonight is a motion to adopt the proposed resolution, which would be included in our application.
Thank you, Mr. Roby. Mr. Tui, you have a question or a comment?
Well, a question that I showed Joe, if you look at the thing that, the actual resolution, and you look at the second page, item number 4, I don't think it's worded correctly. I think there was a mistake there. City of Sueur commits to providing a 20% local match to federal funds of $100,000. I think it should say, to comport with what's written in the body, 20% match of awarded funds defined as up to $100,000. So it should be, instead of federal funds of, it should say match to federal funds not to exceed $100,000. Because the way it's worded here, it's like we're only getting $100,000. Did you find that?
Yes.
Duly noted. Or do you agree? Concur?
Well, I think I see what Councilmember 2 is suggesting. Just wordsmithing on the fly here. If it were to read, the city of Sueur commits to providing 20% or, in parentheses, up to $100,000 local match to federal funds, and will provide. So after 20%, we specify that amount is not to exceed $100,000, up to $100,000.
Or you just get rid of and not to exceed $100,000. It's a,
But in that same sentence, it talks about we're responsible for any overruns, so you can't get rid of $100,000. Can't put excess of $100,000.
Yes, we can't effectively say not to exceed, because let's say the project costs $500,000.
well, that's what it says here. It says 20% match of awarded funds defined as up to $100,000.
Yes, I think that's probably,
But then on the now therefore section, it says, and will fund any additional cost overruns or study costs. So in the actual therefores,
the guarantee they're looking for is that whatever we are awarded, if we commit 20% of the total award, that if it happens to run over for any reason, and if there were an overrun, city council would have to consider approval of that, or just say we're stopping the clock at, $100,000, and stop the study. But effectively, as part of this grant, we would have to say, if it goes above and beyond that 20%, we're not going to come back to the feds and ask for more.
I get it. Okay. What is it that is the intent of number 4? Is the intent to say that we're going to match whatever we get, 20% of it, match that grant up to $100,000 is what, right?
Yeah, and I think what's more important is what's the language that's in the resolution itself and not what's in the memo. So in theory, what, if anything, is potentially misleading is what's in the memo itself, which is commits to a match of awarded funds. And it's defined as up to $100,000 because we're asking for that. But let's say they award us $387,000.
Right.
We would be committing ourselves to 20% of that plus any overruns.
If there are.
If there are any,
Right.
yes. So that's the spirit of the presentation to the DOT.
I mean, you guys can go ahead, because I'm not gonna be here, but to me, that's not what item 4 says.
And actually now rereading this and hearing that what you're just saying, I would agree. I think that does need, I think
It's not what item
it
4
should, it
says.
should say federal funds up to 100,000.
Or not to.
100,000.
Yeah, some way of putting that in there is, to me, number 4 doesn't make sense the way it's written.
Would it be fair to say, so since the,
I think up should be changed to up to. I think that's the intent of that paragraph.
Right. Or
yes,
up to, not to exceed, either way, it's the same thing.
the alternative would be, since we're requesting $400,000, and then we're saying we're going to commit a 20% local match of that, technically, we could eliminate the $100,000 altogether, because we're saying, and just say a 20% local match to federal funds, and we'll fund any.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't
Doesn't clean it up.
need the
That
100,000
clears it up.
effectively.
Because you're stopped by the 20%.
Correct. We're saying we're gonna, whatever that amount is, we're asking for 400. If you give us less, we're gonna give
We bet they
20%.
give you more.
Yes. They've given us none so far.
Yeah, that would make
Do you
sense.
think that would make everybody,
20% local match to federal funds.
if we took out the 100,000?
And we'll fund and, yeah,
We don't all 100.
right, take
Local match
that
to
out.
federal funds. And will fund. And will fund any additional cost overruns.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion, if there is a motion, it would be to,
We can have a motion to adopt resolution R 2024-065 with the,
As amended.
with the language amended on item 4, correct?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Tui.
No, second.
Second by Councilmember Huntington.
Just want to make one general comment. Administrator Roby didn't mention it, but the Highway 169 Corridor Coalition just put this area on the priority project list. So it's being looked at by legislators
Thank you.
now. So
Thank you.
good timing.
Do we get a recommendation or a referral from that organization as well, or have we reached out to them in the past?
we will be this year. Now that's the priority project. We'll be sending out request letters.
So we have a motion made by Councilmember Tui, second by Councilmember Huntington with the revisions on item 4. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Going on to agenda item 9E, resolution R 2024-064, the execution of the IIJA discretionary grant agreement. Mr. Roby, go explain that.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. This item, along with 9F, are directly associated with item 9D, the raise grant itself. So the federal government, as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also known as the bilateral infrastructure law, BIL, which is the huge infrastructure bill that was passed in 2021 and signed into law in 2021. That's providing this funding. As part of all these funds to enhance multimodal transportation, rail, highway, trails, all the way down the line across the country, the federal government also did earmark some funds specifically so that organizations can obtain technical support in applying for that. So the federal government provides programs like the RAISE program in order to have a snowball's chance of getting one of those grants. You really have to have a very sophisticated application. To get a sophisticated application, most organizations need to hire a grant writer of some kind, and the federal government recognized that. So they dole out funds to the states to establish these individual grants. So the city applied for a grant from MnDOT through state aid for one of these IIJA discretionary grants, which would grant the city of Sueur up to $30,000 to support us hiring a consultant to assist with the writing of the grant, of the RAISE grant, and put the whole package together and do video and all that stuff. We've been awarded that grant of $30,000, which is great because effectively then our application for the raised planning grant that was just authorized would not have any direct taxpayer impact. Now, the city council must agree to execution of the grant agreement itself and the terms of the IAJA grant, which were included in the packet, and I would say they're typical of any grant agreement that just says, well, this is what we're going to use the funds for. The funds can be audited at any time. But they do require city council to adopt a resolution formally executing that agreement to request to receive those funds.
So simplifying this is a grant, to write a grant, to get a grant.
That's correct.
Thank you. Perfectly clear. Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, for sure.
If not, I will entertain a motion for resolution R 2024-064, approving the execution of the proposal of the IIJA discretionary grant agreement and agreeing to the grant terms.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Councilmember Schrader, thank you. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 9F, the Sueur County IIJA memorandum of understanding. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As referenced, this is also related to the raised grant in the sense that the IIJA grant that City Council just adopted will involve some help from our friends at Sueur County. So the city of Sueur is not a state aid city, which means that when we receive state aid related funds for transportation, this county has to be the fiscal host of those funds. So we've seen this on CSAW 22 and CSAW 36 when we do those large scale projects involving state aid roadways, where the county owns the contract, the county is in charge of doling out the money. Same is the case here. So when we were awarded the $30,000 from MnDOT for the raised grant, they said, congratulations, that's great, but you're not a state aid city, so the county's going to have to receive these funds for you. We don't have to have an MOU or memo of understanding between us and the county to memorialize this relationship for this grant, but it is good practice. It outlines what the county's going to do for us, what we promised to do for the county in terms of exchanging invoices and things like that. And as with all of our recent projects, the county is a phenomenal partner in all of this. Effectively, we just say, Mr. Teagues, we need some help because we can get some money, but it's going to take your signature and some time. And Dave says, okay, tell me where I need to be and I'll get it done. So this MOU is pretty straightforward. We drafted it. The County Board of Commissioners will be considering it at their meeting next week. If City Council passes it tonight, it will be there at the County Board meeting next week advocating for its passage as well.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions regarding this matter? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the execution of the MOU with the Sueur County related to the IIJA discretionary grant program as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Tui.
Second.
I think Councilmember Williams is second. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 9G, Airport Grass Runway Project Approval. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's an area just south of the runway out at the Sueur Municipal Airport, which is 12Y for those keeping track at home. So we don't get a fancy acronym like MSP or LAX, we get 12Y. So when 12Y is referenced, that's the code for our airport, okay? And there's an area just south of the runway at our airport that has historically been used as a grass runway because it's generally open. It's generally graded correctly for antique aircraft that are tail draggers or that require a softer surface for landing for the tail of the airplane. And so when we have these larger fly-ins of antique aircraft, they like to use this area south of the runway as an informal grass runway. We were approached this last spring by Marginal Aviation, which is the group that puts on the first Hitch event, which is the largest fly-in that 12Y hosts every year. And Marginal Aviation proposed hiring a contractor and engineer to come out and do the work to regrade this area appropriately to make it safer for informal use. And also as an extra bonus, it does improve some of the stormwater drainage that's currently impacting the surface of the runway itself. So this would be an overall improvement to the runway. The request tonight would be to approve the donation from marginal aviation and private individuals to have this work contracted and done, and approve the potential for city in-kind work, which would have to be staff or potentially some equipment to assist with the project during 2025.
300 feet, they can actually land a plane in that?
Yes. I mean, the area is a little bit, the area does extend a little bit, but the area that would be regraded would only be that area.
Oh,
The 300
okay, so it's
foot.
more.
And we did, I should add, the airport commission considered this at their meeting earlier this month. The airport commission recommended the city council approve this. Speaking with our airport engineer with SEH, we don't need to file anything or get FAA approval for this because this isn't an official runway and it's not a dedication of a new official runway. It's just an area that, when it's safe to do so, can be used as a grass runway.
Anybody else have any questions regarding this? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the proposed project and in-kind support there involving the city of Sueur Municipal Airport. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan, seconded by Councilmember Huntington. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Lastly, I believe this is the last item, is it not? First reading of ordinance 613, fees and schedules. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Annually, the city council considers the setting of city fees and charges for various city services. Historically, this is done via resolution, and historically, we've done it at the first meeting in December when the budget, CIP, and utility rates are adopted. We were still evaluating some of our fees around planning and zoning, and so we weren't ready to bring forward a recommendation at the December 9th meeting, hence the appearance of this action tonight. State statute does advise that fee schedules be set via ordinance instead of resolution. It adds just a little bit of an extra step in the process because an ordinance requires 2 readings. So the first reading has been prepared for tonight. Second reading would be brought back in January. Otherwise, the way the city is handling the fee schedule going into 2025 has remained consistent with 2024. All departments have evaluated their fees and service charges from 2024, made adjustments where appropriate based on market conditions or input costs. The formatting of the fee schedule is identical to 2024's. It's just that we're requesting the city council consider an ordinance and make it part of city code instead of passing a resolution.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? If not, being this is the last meeting for Councilmember Dewey and Councilmember Swanberg, if either of you would like to read this ordinance 613, feel free.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading of ordinance 613, establishing city fee schedule.
And I will say.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg, Councilmember Dewey, seconding. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to reports and items of appreciation. As always, we'll start with Councilmember Huntington.
A couple of things. I first want to say thank you to Dave and to Mike for being on the city council. Been a great couple of years. You guys have been on the board, and I appreciate it. So thank you. And I wish everybody in Little Sueur a happy Merry Christmas and a great New Year.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Schleter.
I've been at a planning commission meeting and an HRA meeting. I also want to wish everyone a safe holidays and New Year, and thank you, Dave and Mike.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
Just happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and thanks to Dave. Mike, enjoy not being already.
Moving on to Councilmember Swanberg.
Yeah, just thank you to the council and staff. It's been a very rewarding experience and certainly have nothing but good memories of it. And same as everybody else, happy holidays to all of our citizens.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Tui.
Yes, I, in the same boat, I want to thank you all for putting up with me for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it. And as long as that public comment section is still over there, you probably haven't heard the last of me. And thank you and have a great holiday season.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
I just wanted to thank the streets departments for their work on clearing our roads. Appreciate that effort, and happy holidays to everybody. And Dave, I'll miss you making that motion for waiving that reading. Somebody else had to take that on. And Mike, you always had great questions. So thank you guys for your service.
Thank you. And I just want to end with thanking Councilmember Tui, Councilmember Swanberg for your insight, your comments over the last several years, your participation, most of all, the time you've put into this. This is not easy work. It's very time consuming, and I really appreciate all the time you all put into this. And Dave, I think you came aboard right around COVID, so you remember what it was like to do these meetings via Zoom. So we've come a long way since then. So I just want to thank both of you, and I've got some certificates here I want to present to you. We'll start with you, Dave.
Participation award.
It's a participation award. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Michael,
I appreciate it. For the rest of your participation.
And
It just spells my name right.
I just want to end with a last thought to our new council members. We have one here tonight, Councilmember-elect Wendy Smith. I want to welcome you folks aboard. You're going to do a wonderful job. You're replacing a couple of fine gentlemen who's really have helped me out over the last couple, 2 and 4 years respectively. And I think I explained to you the other day, the two of us haven't always agreed on everything. We bumped heads, some a little more than others, but you two will do a fine job. I'm looking forward to meeting with you and working with you. So thank you for being here tonight. With that, I will entertain a motion to end this meeting and wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.